Green. Guardian?
Eyesupsaf.
Eyes up, Guardians. We got a 2-for-1 video for you guys today. And today we're going to be talking about the Warlock DPS meta. And man, oh man, are these two amazing builds for DPS. We tried both of these builds out in the Desert Perpetual raid, as you're seeing that in the background right now for the background gameplay. But oh man, do these builds slap. Now I will say this, as a Warlock, it gets really annoying when you go into a raid and the only thing that people want you to run is Well of Radiance. Well, the secondary build to this has the Well of Radiance, where you can output a crazy amount of damage as well. But if you're in a scenario where you have other Well Warlocks and you're not the only one, you can run this particular version of it to do a crazy amount of damage that actually does more damage than Thundercrash Titans, if you believe that or not. I will show it up on the screen. There's two different screenshots. I did a Sunder Doctrine boss run where I was pretty much going damage for damage above a Thundercrash Titan who had 200 super. And also, I put the screenshot up on the screen of the Desert Perpetual raid final damage layout. And as you can see, we did a crazy amount of damage to the final boss using this exact same build. I do have to give a quick shout out to my boy Lone Warden and his clan for teaching me the Desert Perpetual raid. Thank you guys so much. It was a blast. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Now I will have both dim links in the description below for both of these builds, so you guys can kind of keep them in your loadouts if you want to. But let's go into the first one. So for this one, we're using Prismatic Warlock. We're using Needle Storm for our super. We have Phoenix Dive as well as Arcane Needle, Threadling Grenades. We're using Hellion and Weaver's Call as our aspects. I didn't really have too much of a problem with survivability when I was using this build in the raid. It was a 3 feet raid, just to give you guys an idea. So if you're going into more difficult content, you might want to switch out one of these for Devour. However, picking up the Orb of Power, getting Woven Mail from that, as well as using Better Already works perfectly fine, in my opinion. But again, every player is different, so if you need some added survivability, you always have the option to switch to Feed the Void to get Devour. Going to our fragments, we're running Facet of Protection for added damage reduction. We're adding Facet of Purpose to gain our Woven Mail. We're adding Facet of Dawn, so we get Radiant on powered melees. We're using Facet of Solitude so we can sever the target. We're using Facet of Courage so that way our Hellion does increased damage because everything is going to be inflicted by a darkness debuff. Going into our stat distribution here, we are running a 50 melee stat, 95 on grenade, 110 super, 90 on class, and 100 on weapon. 100 on weapon in this is really important. I feel like going anywhere between 70 to 90 class is also really important. And then the rest of your stats you really want to filter into super. If you can get your super stat as high as possible, it just increases the amount of damage that you can put out in this build. Anything over 100 doesn't give you more super regen, but it does give you more damage. Going into the weapons that we use for this build, we use Numal Pace. Numal Pace gives you a ton of super energy back every single time you do that special reload and just on normal hits. Then I have my standard Adclair weapon, which is my Yeartide Apex. And then for your heavy, you can use pretty much whatever you want. You really want a heavy that you can just kind of shoot and forget. So if you do have the new Haliatus, you can get this with aggregate charge as well as something like auto-loading holster. Haliatus is a good option here. Now, what really makes this build tick is your artifact perks. The 3 main artifact mods that you want to take. First one, Threadling Proliferation. So dealing strand weapon damage has a chance to spawn a Threadling. This is off of damage, not off of kills. So every time you shoot your Numal Pace, you have a chance to spawn a Threadling. Then we have Pack Tactics, so your Threadlings increase Threadling damage every time they hit a target. This just amplifies your damage even more. And then Energy Acceleration, so sustained damage with micro missiles causes the combatant to emit a kinetic shockwave that damages nearby combatants. This is also really good. The main two though, like I said, is Pack Tactics and Threadling Proliferation. These two together just amplify your damage and give you that extra tick damage that you need when you're doing a boss encounter, especially for something like the Desert Perpetual raid where you have so much time to damage the bosses. Now going into our armor, for our helmet we are using a special ammo finder as well as Solar Strand Dual Siphon and a Radiant Light. Like I said, most of these are for damage phases, they're not for solo content, so Radiant Light's really good for when you cast your super and you can give your teammates armor charge. In our arms we're using Focusing Strike, impact induction, as well as a strand loader. In our chest piece, we do have a strand ammo generation, a solar ammo generation, and I prefer to use concussive dampener because most bosses will shoot at you and they're doing splash damage, so concussive dampener helps a lot with reducing that damage. In our boots, we are running Better Already, as well as 2 strand weapon surges. And then for our bond, we're using Reaper, time dilation, and 1 bomber mod. Now, the most important part of this build is to have your class item with Apotheosis and Star Eater. All right, so I'll give you guys a little showcase of how this works now. Class ability, melee, grenade, pop your super, spam your grenade. As you see, it's going to come back up pretty quick. Now that it's done, I'm going to pop prismatic and I'm going to shoot. And we'll stop this once we run out of new Malpace ammo altogether. And just keep a look at my super bar every time I use the special reload. As you see, we already have our super back. We pop it again. We let the threadlings do all the work for us. And there you have it. So that's pretty much a breakdown of how you actually use it in a damage rotation. Now, as you can tell when you're doing this with friends, especially in a fire team of like 6 people, since they're also going to be popping their supers, you're going to get a ton of orbs. You're going to get a ton more super regeneration. You're going to be standing in a well, so you're going to have way more damage output. But overall, that's pretty much the breakdown of how you actually use the build itself. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate you guys checking out the videos and looking at everything. If you did enjoy it, leave a comment in the comment section below, drop a like on the video. A sub would be definitely appreciated. And if you guys have any questions as to how this works, leave that also in the comment section below. But like I said, I put the dim link up for both of these builds. They pretty much work exactly the same. If you're using the Well of Radiance version, you use your melee, your grenade, pop your well, and then spam melee and grenade until you can't anymore. Switch over to new Malpace, chuck that into the boss, get your super back. You actually get your well back before the first one runs out, which is insane in a damage phase. So you can just continuously spam wells over and over and over again and continuously have that infinite grenade and melee ability regeneration for the short duration. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me know. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye.